In the waning days of the Second World War, the landscape of the United States was dotted with over 500 prisoner of war camps, housing more than 400,000 German soldiers captured on battlefields far from American shores. Among these camps was Camp Crossville, nestled in the heart of Tennessee, which played host to a unique intersection of war and peace, labor, and legislation. The echoes of war were still resounding across continents, but here in Tennessee, a different story was unfolding, a story of transformation, adaptation, and the slow march toward peace. Camp Crossville, established in 1942, was initially a civilian Conservation Corps camp before being repurposed to accommodate German POWs. By 1945, it had a capacity of approximately 1,500 prisoners. The camp layout was meticulous, with barracks, a mess hall, recreational facilities, and a perimeter fence guarded by units from the Military Police Corps. The camp's security was stringent, with guard towers and regular patrols ensuring order and discipline. The structures of the camp stood as a testament to the military precision with which the U.S. handled these prisoners, balancing the need for security with adherence to international conventions. According to War Department circulars, the primary use of POW labor in Tennessee was to mitigate the agricultural labor shortages caused by the war. With so many American men deployed overseas, the local workforce was severely depleted, and the arrival of POWs provided a much-needed boost to the economy. Prisoners worked under contracts with local farmers, assisting in tasks ranging from planting and harvesting to building fences and working in canneries. These activities were meticulously logged in transportation records and agricultural labor contracts, ensuring compliance with the Geneva Convention's stipulations on the treatment of POWs. The logistics of prisoner labor were complex, involving coordination between camp officials and local agricultural interests. Each day, German POWs were transported to various work sites, often under the supervision of civilian contractors or military personnel. The work was demanding, but it offered the prisoners a sense of purpose and routine. In exchange for their labor, POWs received nominal wages, paid in coupons that could be redeemed at the camp canteen for goods not subject to rationing. This system allowed them a semblance of economic autonomy, albeit limited, and provided a small respite from the confines of camp life. Red Cross inspections provide insight into the living conditions at Camp Crossville. Reports confirm that the prisoners had access to medical care, education programs, and recreational activities, often organized by the YMCA. These activities were part of a broader effort to maintain morale and discipline within the camp. The camp newspaper served as a forum for information and entertainment, furthering a sense of community among the internees. Despite being far from home, the German soldiers were offered opportunities to learn, engage in sports, and even create art, fostering an environment that, ironically, was less repressive than many had feared. It was against this backdrop that the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, commonly known as the GI Bill, began to transform the American socio-economic landscape. Posters outside local banks advertised the benefits available to returning veterans, home loans, college tuition, and vocational training. These opportunities were a stark contrast to the circumstances of the German POWs, who continued their labor under strict supervision. The GI Bill represented a promise of a new beginning for American soldiers, a chance to rebuild their lives and contribute to the prosperity of the nation they had fought to protect. Civilian attitudes toward the POWs were varied. While some viewed the prisoners with suspicion or hostility, others saw them as a necessary part of the wartime economy. Recorded incidents of fraternization, though rare, were documented in the U.S. Army Provost Marshal General records, reflecting the complex dynamics between the local population and the German soldiers. For some Tennesseans, the presence of the POWs was a reminder of the global conflict, while for others, It was a chance to engage with individuals from a country that had been enemy territory. The implementation of the GI Bill offered a glimpse into the post-war future that awaited American veterans. Bank clerks explained mortgage subsidies to veterans eager to start new lives after their service. Disabled veterans found pathways to bypass corporate gatekeeping as the government provided institutional support to those who had sacrificed for their country. The GI Bill not only facilitated personal growth and economic stability for veterans, but also laid the foundation for a post-war economic boom that would reshape the American dream. For the German POWs, such scenes were a reminder of the ideological dismantling occurring around them. Though they were far removed from their homes, the systems and environments they observed highlighted the transformation of a society grappling with the aftermath of global conflict. The POWs were both participants in and observers of a world that was slowly stitching itself back together, even as the scars of war remained fresh. As the war drew to a close, plans for the repatriation of German POWs were set in motion. Post-war repatriation directives outlined the procedures for returning prisoners to their homeland, where they would face re-education programs designed to instill democratic values and facilitate their reintegration into a post-Nazi Germany. This process was fraught with challenges, as many POWs returned to a homeland that was vastly different from the one they had left, one that was rebuilding both physically and ideologically. The day German POWs saw veterans receive guaranteed loans was a day that underscored the contrasts between two groups irrevocably shaped by war. It was a day that revealed the complexities of a world in transition as the promise of peace began to take hold in the shadows of a conflict that had changed the course of history. As the POWs boarded trains bound for a future unknown, the veterans embarked on new journeys of their own, each step forward a testament to resilience and hope in the aftermath of devastation. The convergence of these narratives in post-war Tennessee is a poignant reminder of the enduring human spirit, striving for peace and prosperity in the wake of tumultuous times. In the summer of 1945, the world was still reeling from the devastation of World War II, and communities everywhere were striving to find a semblance of normalcy amid the ruins. In the quiet town of Crossville, Tennessee, this period of transition was particularly poignant. This small town, nestled in the heart of the American South, became an unexpected intersection of cultures and histories as it hosted German prisoners of war, POWs, who were working alongside American civilians and veterans. The juxtaposition of these groups highlighted the contrasting realities of a world trying to heal from the ravages of conflict. The German POWs, confined to the boundaries of Camp Crossville, were assigned various tasks, such as building fences and performing agricultural labor for the local community. This was a strategic decision aimed at addressing the labor shortages that had plagued the area during the war, as many local men had been away fighting overseas. For the townspeople, the presence of these German soldiers was a reminder of the conflict that had consumed the world just a few months prior. Yet it was also an indication of the societal shifts occurring in its aftermath. The POW's presence in the fields of Tennessee was both a literal and metaphorical representation of the rebuilding efforts taking place across the globe. Under the watchful eyes of camp officials and military guards, the German prisoners labored with a quiet diligence that spoke volumes about their circumstances. Their routine was meticulously structured and predictable, providing a semblance of normalcy in an otherwise uncertain time. Each day, as they worked under the hot Tennessee sun, the POWs were acutely aware of the bustling activities of local life around them. They witnessed the transformative effects of the GI Bill on returning American veterans, who were beginning to carve out new lives for themselves in a post-war economy. Across the road from one of the fields where the POWs toiled stood a local bank, which had become a symbol of the transformation sweeping through America. Its windows were adorned with posters advertising the GI Bill, detailing the benefits available to veterans, home loans, educational opportunities, and vocational training. These posters were not just advertisements. They were promises of a better future, a testament to the nation's commitment to those who had served. Inside the bank, a clerk worked diligently, explaining mortgage subsidies and educational grants to interested veterans. The opportunities provided by the GI Bill allowed many veterans to bypass traditional corporate gatekeeping, opening doors to new possibilities and careers that had previously seemed out of reach. For the German POWs, the sight of these opportunities was a stark contrast to their own uncertain futures. They knew that their time in Tennessee was temporary and that they would soon face the daunting task of returning to a Germany that was defeated and divided. The prospect of reintegrating into a society vastly different from the one they had left behind was filled with challenges. They understood that their return would require a re-education into democratic values, a process that was already beginning within the confines of the camp. The local community's response to the presence of the POWs was varied. Some residents viewed them with suspicion, unable to entirely shake off the memories of the adversaries they had represented. Others, however, saw the POWs as a necessary part of the post-war economy, contributing to the rebuilding efforts through their labor. The interactions between the POWs and the local population were limited, largely restricted to economic exchanges and supervised tasks. Yet, these interactions occasionally provided the POWs with glimpses into American life and the changes it was undergoing. American veterans, meanwhile, were beginning to navigate the opportunities afforded to them by the GI Bill. For many, the promise of higher education or the prospect of owning a home was a tangible reward for their sacrifices. The implementation of the GI Bill marked a significant societal shift as it offered veterans the chance to build new lives in a peacetime economy. This program was not without its challenges. Bureaucratic hurdles and local prejudices sometimes limited access to its benefits, a reminder that the path to progress was often fraught with obstacles. Nonetheless, the GI Bill represented a broader commitment to recognizing and rewarding military service, a promise of hope for a brighter future. Back at Camp Crossville, the German POWs continued their daily routines, which included educational and recreational programs designed to maintain their morale. Classes in English and discussions on democratic principles were part of their curriculum, preparing them for the ideological transition they would face upon returning to Germany. The camp's administrators recognized the importance of these programs, not only for the POWs' immediate well-being, but also for their long-term re-assimilation into a post-war world. These efforts were part of a broader strategy to promote democratic values and foster a spirit of reconciliation. As the war ended and repatriation plans were finalized, the impending departure of the POWs stirred mixed emotions within the camp. For some, the return to Germany was eagerly anticipated, a chance to reunite with family and rebuild their lives. For others, the uncertainty of what awaited them in a divided country was daunting. The end of their time in Tennessee represented both an end and a beginning, a conclusion to their role in the war and the start of an unknown future. In the broader context, the experiences of the German POWs and the American veterans in Tennessee were microcosms of the global shifts occurring in the post-war era. The transition from wartime to peacetime economies, the ideological re-education efforts in Germany, and the restructuring of societal norms through initiatives like the GI Bill were indicative of a world striving for stability and progress. These efforts were part of a collective endeavor to forge a new path forward, one defined by cooperation and mutual understanding. As the summer of 1945 progressed, the landscape of Crossville, Tennessee, continued to evolve. The fields where the POWs had labored gradually transformed, benefiting from the fences and infrastructure they had helped to build. Meanwhile, veterans began to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the GI Bill, enrolling in colleges and purchasing homes, contributing to the post-war economic boom. The transformative power of education and homeownership was evident as veterans moved into new roles within the community, helping to shape its future. The legacy of the German POWs in Tennessee was subtle yet significant. Their labor had played a role in the local economy, and their presence had provided a unique perspective on the intersections of war and peace. The interactions between the POWs, veterans, and civilians in Crossville served as a reminder of the complexities of reconciliation and rebuilding in the post-war world. These interactions, however limited, were small steps toward healing and understanding, offering a glimpse into the potential for peace and cooperation. As the German POWs prepared to return home, the American veterans continued to forge new paths, aided by the institutional support that recognized their sacrifices. The story of Camp Crossville and its inhabitants was a chapter in the broader narrative of post-World War II history, reflecting the challenges and opportunities that emerged from the ashes of conflict. The perseverance of the human spirit, evident in both the POWs and the veterans, underscored the universal desire for peace, stability, and a better future. As Tennessee and the world moved forward, the lessons of this time would resonate for generations to come, shaping the contours of a new era defined by hope and resilience. The story of Crossville, with its unique blend of history and humanity, serves as a testament to the power of reconciliation and the enduring quest for a brighter tomorrow. This chapter in history, though marked by its share of difficulties, ultimately tells a story of transformation and the indomitable spirit of those who lived through it. In the late summer of 1945, as the oppressive heat began to wane and the first hints of autumn crept into the landscape, Camp Crossville in Tennessee was alive with the rhythmic clinking of tools wielded by German POWs. The camp was nestled in the rolling hills of the American South, where the natural beauty of the landscape stood in stark contrast to the harsh realities of war and its aftermath. These prisoners, captured in the waning days of World War II, found themselves far from home, engaged in laborious tasks that marked their daily existence. The camp itself was a sprawling complex designed to hold hundreds of prisoners, each of whom wore the distinctive garb that marked them as POWs. Barbed wire fences enclosed the area, and guard towers stood as silent sentinels against the backdrop of the sky. Within these confines, the German soldiers went about their tasks, which ranged from erecting fences and maintaining the grounds to tending to the camp's agricultural needs. The work was hard and unrelenting, yet it provided a semblance of routine in an otherwise uncertain world. Beyond the confines of the camp, the broader landscape of Tennessee was undergoing its own transformation, driven by the societal changes sweeping across post-war America. A key catalyst for this change was the GI Bill, officially known as the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944. This landmark piece of legislation aimed to ease the transition of American veterans from the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific back into the flow of civilian life. It offered a range of benefits, including low-interest home loans, funding for higher education, and vocational training. The GI Bill was a visionary step forward designed to prevent the economic hardships that had plagued returning World War I veterans. In the nearby town, the local bank became a focal point of this transformation. It was a modest brick building, unassuming in its architecture but resplendent with patriotic banners and posters that proclaimed the benefits of the GI Bill. The bank was more than just a financial institution, it was a symbol of hope and renewal. Inside, clerks explained the intricacies of mortgage subsidies to groups of attentive veterans, many of whom had exchanged their uniforms for civilian clothes for the first time in years. The bank was instrumental in facilitating loans that allowed veterans to secure homes and, by extension, a permanent stake in their communities. This process was not merely a transaction. It was a transformative experience that helped veterans regain a sense of stability and belonging. Meanwhile, the German POWs, though keenly aware of the opportunities being afforded to American veterans, remained largely isolated from these changes. Their lives were governed by the structured routine of camp life, a world defined by the monotony of daily tasks and the ever-present reminder of their status as prisoners. Despite their circumstances, the POWs received humane treatment in accordance with international conventions. Camp officials worked diligently to ensure that the prisoners were provided with adequate living conditions, medical care, and even opportunities for education. The camp's library, a modest collection of books in multiple languages, was a testament to these efforts, offering POWs a window to the world beyond their confinement. For the local civilians, the presence of the POWs was a complex and sometimes contentious issue. Their reactions ranged from suspicion and fear to acceptance and even empathy. Some locals viewed the POWs as a potential threat, a remnant of an enemy they had fought against. Others saw them as men caught in the same global conflict that had touched their own lives. The labor provided by the POWs was a practical benefit to the community, helping to bridge the gap between wartime shortages and peacetime recovery. This ambivalence mirrored the broader societal tensions of the time, as communities across the nation grappled with the aftermath of war and the challenges of reconciliation. As the war drew to a close, preparations for the repatriation of the POWs began to take shape. This process was not merely logistical. It included an emphasis on re-education into democratic values, a critical component aimed at equipping the prisoners with the ideological tools necessary for reintegration into a changed Germany. This effort mirrored the broader initiatives to rebuild and redefine post-war Europe, focusing on peace, stability, and the prevention of future conflicts. The experiences of the German POWs in Tennessee and the American veterans returning home were emblematic of the broader global shifts occurring in the wake of World War II. As nations around the world grappled with the immense task of reconstruction, the ideological dismantling of previous regimes played out through systemic changes rather than individual transformations. This was evident in the structures and policies being implemented at both local and international levels, all aimed at fostering a sense of unity and progress. In the fields surrounding Camp Crossville, the labor of the German POWs persisted, a testament to the enduring human spirit even in captivity. Their work, though often overlooked, was a vital component of the local economy, helping to bridge the gap between wartime shortages and peacetime recovery. Meanwhile, American veterans, buoyed by the support of the GI Bill, embarked on journeys of personal and professional growth, their sacrifices acknowledged through tangible opportunities. They enrolled in colleges, started businesses, and laid the foundations for what would become the prosperous post-war American middle class. The narrative unfolding in Tennessee was one of contrasts and convergences, reflecting the broader complexities of the post-war era. The German POWs, though far from home, were participants in a global story of reconciliation and reconstruction. Their presence, alongside that of returning American veterans, highlighted the interconnectedness of individual experiences within the larger tapestry of history. As summer gave way to fall, The landscape of Camp Crossville and its surroundings continued to evolve. The fields, once a symbol of wartime necessity, were now part of a larger narrative of renewal and hope. The German POWs, despite their transient status, had left an indelible mark on the community, contributing to the broader efforts toward peace and prosperity. The legacy of the GI Bill, meanwhile, was beginning to take shape. Its impact felt across the nation as veterans embraced the opportunities it afforded. In Tennessee, as in other parts of the country, the promise of a brighter future was becoming a reality, driven by the resilience and determination of those who had served. In this post-war landscape, the experiences of the German POWs and American veterans were emblematic of the broader global shifts taking place. Their stories, though distinct, were intertwined within the larger context of a world seeking to heal and rebuild in the aftermath of conflict. As the seasons changed, so too did the hopes and aspirations of those living through this pivotal moment in history, their journeys reflective of the enduring quest for peace and progress. The fields around Camp Crossville, once a site of toil and constraint, were now fields of hope, their story a chapter in the larger narrative of a world striving for a new beginning. In the waning days of summer 1945, the transformative power of the GI Bill began to take root across the United States, its effects distinctly observable in places like Camp Crossville, Tennessee. This was a time when two vastly different worlds intersected, the daily routines of German POWs and the burgeoning opportunities afforded to American veterans, creating a unique tableau of post-war transition that was both complex and revealing. Camp Crossville, nestled amidst the rolling hills and fertile fields of Tennessee, had been repurposed during the war as a prisoner of war camp. By 1945, it was home to hundreds of German soldiers captured on various fronts. Under the watchful eyes of camp officials, these POWs adhered to a strict routine that involved labor-intensive tasks, which significantly contributed to the local economy. Their work, primarily in agricultural sectors, was crucial in mitigating the labor shortages that plagued the region. The construction of fences, one of their frequent assignments, symbolized both a literal and metaphorical boundary, one that enclosed the POWs physically and highlighted their separation from the freedoms now being experienced by American veterans. The POWs' presence acted as a double-edged sword for the local community. On one hand, they were a reminder of the enemy, the other that had been fought against in a brutal global conflict. Yet, on the other hand, their labor was indispensable. The fields of Tennessee, once barren due to labor shortages as local men went off to war, began to flourish under the stewardship of these German soldiers. Corn, wheat, and other crops grew tall, a testament to the POWs' hard work and the strange interdependence that had formed between captors and captives. Nearby, in the heart of town, the local bank served as a focal point for veterans seeking to utilize their newly granted benefits. This institution, long a symbol of stability and trust, now buzzed with activity. Posters emblazoned with promises of home loans and educational opportunities adorned its walls, providing a stark contrast to the lives of the POWs. Inside, a clerk diligently explained the intricacies of mortgage subsidies to groups of veterans. These subsidies, part of the broader GI Bill benefits, aim to facilitate homeownership and economic stability, marking a significant shift in government policy toward supporting those who had served. For many veterans, the promise of a subsidized mortgage represented a tangible step toward rebuilding their lives. The availability of home loans meant the possibility of owning property, a dream that had been deferred by years of war. This opportunity was not only a means of personal advancement, but also a cornerstone of the broader American post-war vision, one that emphasized growth and prosperity. The GI Bill was more than a financial aid package. It was a promise of a fresh start, a new beginning for those who had sacrificed so much. The educational benefits provided by the GI Bill further underscored this shift. Veterans eager to pursue higher education or vocational training found themselves with access to resources that had previously been out of reach. Colleges and universities across the nation saw an influx of students, their ranks swelled by former servicemen eager to acquire new skills and knowledge. This surge in enrollment not only transformed higher education, but also had a lasting impact on American society, fostering innovation and economic growth in the decades to come. Lecture halls that had been quiet during the war years now buzzed with the energy of learning and discovery, the sound of pencils scratching on paper, and the enthusiastic discussions of young men determined to make the most of their opportunities. Meanwhile, the German POWs observed these societal changes from a distance. Their interactions with the local community, though limited, offered glimpses into the benefits being extended to the veterans. Conversations with camp officials and civilian workers occasionally touched on the subject, revealing the disparities between their respective circumstances. For the POWs, the prospect of returning to a war-torn Germany loomed large, casting a shadow over their daily routines. They would soon be returning to a country in ruins, where cities had been reduced to rubble, and a future fraught with uncertainty awaited them. The contrast between their bleak prospects and the burgeoning opportunities for American veterans was stark. The repatriation process for the POWs, while still in its initial stages, included re-education efforts aimed at instilling democratic values and dismantling the remnants of Nazi ideology. Classes were held within the confines of the camp, where POWs were introduced to concepts of democracy and individual rights. These sessions, part of a broader Allied initiative, reflected the global commitment to preventing future conflicts through ideological transformation. Though the POWs participated in these classes, their thoughts often wandered back to the homes and families they had left behind, and the daunting task of rebuilding a nation from the ashes. The local community's response to the POWs and returning veterans varied. For some, the presence of German soldiers was a reminder of recent hostilities, fostering suspicion and unease. Yet, economic necessity often tempered these sentiments, as the labor provided by the POWs was indispensable to local agricultural operations. Conversely, the veterans were widely celebrated, their sacrifices acknowledged through public ceremonies and community support. Parades and welcome home parties were common, with townspeople lining the streets to cheer and wave flags as bands played patriotic tunes. As the weeks passed, the landscape of Tennessee continued to evolve. The agricultural fields, once barren due to labor shortages, began to flourish under the stewardship of the POWs. Simultaneously, new homes emerged on the horizon, constructed with the aid of GI Bill loans, symbolizing the veterans' successful reintegration into civilian life. These homes, often modest but sturdy, dotted the landscape, each one representing the dreams and aspirations of a family eager to move forward. The juxtaposition of these two groups, POWs and American veterans, within the same geographical space underscored the broader themes of transformation and adaptation that characterized the post-war era. The POWs, despite their uncertain future, contributed to the rebuilding of a society they were not yet a part of. The veterans, empowered by government support, embarked on journeys of personal and professional growth, embodying the nation's commitment to peace and progress. It was a time of contrasts, of dreams realized and dreams deferred, of new beginnings and unresolved pasts. This period marked a pivotal moment in American history, where the policies enacted during the post-war years laid the foundation for future prosperity. The GI Bill's impact extended beyond individual veterans, reshaping the nation's economic and social landscape. It fostered a sense of optimism and possibility, a stark contrast to the uncertainty faced by the POWs. The bill played a crucial role in creating a vibrant middle class, contributing to the economic boom of the post-war years, and setting the stage for the United States to become a global leader in innovation and industry. As the summer of 1945 drew to a close, the experiences at Camp Crossville served as a microcosm of the global shifts occurring in the aftermath of World War II. The interactions between German POWs and American veterans, though indirect, highlighted the complexities of a world in transition. It was a time of rebuilding and reconciliation, where the scars of conflict were gradually healed through policies that prioritized human dignity and opportunity. In this environment, the American veterans and German POWs each navigated their paths, shaped by the forces of history and the promise of a better future. The legacy of their experiences would resonate in the years to come, influencing the trajectory of both nations as they move toward a new era of peace and cooperation. The actions and decisions made during this time would ripple through history, affecting the lives of countless individuals and shaping the world in unforeseen ways. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for renewal and growth, even in the aftermath of profound conflict and upheaval. As the final months of 1945 unfolded, the landscape of Camp Crossville and its surroundings in Tennessee bore witness to the quiet yet profound transformations occurring at the close of World War II. The German POWs, who had spent months laboring on the local fields, prepared for their eventual repatriation. Their time in Tennessee had been marked by a mix of routine, labor, and occasional glimpses into the changing American society around them. The fields they had tended stood as a testament to their efforts, contributing to the local economy's recovery and reflecting the broader global narrative of Reconstruction. The process of preparing the German POWs for their return home was meticulous, involving a series of logistical and educational steps. Repatriation directives outlined the procedures for their departure, emphasizing the importance of re-education in democratic values. This initiative was part of a larger effort to dismantle the ideological remnants of the war, fostering a foundation for peace and cooperation in post-war Europe. As trains arrived to transport the POWs to embarkation points, the camp's atmosphere was a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. The prisoners faced the prospect of returning to a homeland that had been irrevocably altered, where the task of rebuilding extended beyond physical infrastructure to the very fabric of society. Meanwhile, the American veterans of Tennessee were experiencing the transformative effects of the GI Bill. The benefits afforded to them, home loans, educational opportunities, and vocational training, had begun to bear fruit. Veterans enrolled in colleges and universities, their presence reshaping the landscape of American education and contributing to the nation's economic growth. The homes they purchased with GI Bill loans dotted the countryside, each one representing a personal triumph and a collective step toward a more prosperous future. These developments were indicative of a broader societal shift as the nation moved from wartime hardship to peacetime prosperity. The local community, too, underwent its own transformation as civilians adjusted to the post-war realities. The interactions between the German POWs and the townspeople, though limited, left an indelible mark. The POWs' labor had been a crucial component of the local economy, and their presence had sparked conversations about reconciliation and the complexities of human relationships in the aftermath of conflict. For many residents, the departure of the POWs was a reminder of the interconnectedness of global events and the shared humanity that transcends borders and ideologies. As the POWs boarded trains bound for a Germany in the process of redefining itself, the American veterans continued to navigate their own paths, buoyed by the opportunities provided by the GI Bill. These parallel journeys, though distinct, were emblematic of the broader post-war narrative, a story of resilience, adaptation, and the pursuit of peace amid the remnants of war. The experiences in Tennessee, from the fields of Camp Crossville to the bustling banks offering GI Bill benefits, encapsulated the spirit of a world striving to heal and rebuild. In the years that followed, the legacy of these events would continue to influence the trajectories of both nations. The GI Bill's impact on American society would be profound, contributing to the creation of a dynamic middle class and laying the groundwork for decades of economic prosperity. For the German POWs, their time in Tennessee was a chapter in the broader story of post-war reconciliation and reconstruction, a reminder of the enduring bonds forged through shared experiences. As the last train carrying German POWs departed from Tennessee, the fields they left behind stood as a symbol of hope and renewal. The story of Camp Crossville, with its unique convergence of histories and cultures, served as a testament to the complexities of post-war recovery and the enduring quest for peace and understanding. In the quiet aftermath of war, the seeds of a new era were sown, nurtured by the resilience and determination of those who lived through this pivotal moment in history.